Welcome to your daily dose of Sunday School, episode 29. We continue with Scripture Alone from James White. We continue to look at the accusations that Scripture contains contradictions, which, if you are going to put your faith in the God of the Bible, you cannot maintain. So it's a serious accusation that we want to understand, and we should be able to wrestle with these apparent contradictions. That's an important thing to do, and whether it's now or later, you will come to the point where someone points something out, and you say, "Oh, well, how do I understand that?" And you'll have to wrestle with those. Often these apparent contradictions come from misinterpreting, misreading a text, not understanding the context of it, not understanding the way a word is used as opposed to how you may typically use it. Also remember that a contradiction doesn't exist simply because it appears to be there in an English translation. It would have to be there in the original text. So often these things, if they're particularly complex, will drive us to trying to understand, maybe through a commentary, the original text, unless you plan on taking several semesters of Greek or Hebrew. Although a lot of them don't quite require that level of study. And so that level of study being looking up a commentary of the original languages. Also, this goes back to the meaning of words and the way they're used. We can read, particularly when we talk about scientific terms, according to modern categories rather than ancient categories. So they give an example. James White gives an example from Leviticus 11:6. He has kind of an imaginary back and forth between an atheist and a Christian, which he's debated so many people that I'm sure this is based on many real conversations. But Leviticus 11:6 says that, it's talking about clean and unclean animals, says the hare, because it chews the cud but does not part the hoof, is unclean to you. And so, what's the atheist going to say? Well, does God not understand basic biology? Because according to the way we use the term chew the cud, a rabbit does not do the same thing as a cow. Now, we just think about the fact that if you lived at this time, you would probably use the same term for both. You see them that they appear to be doing the same thing with the grass. But what happens over time, you study and you come up with a different term for what the rabbit's doing. Because what is the cow doing? The cow has a stomach for, I guess it allows the grass to digest some before they chew it some more, and then it goes to a different stomach, I think, pretty sure. Rabbits don't do that. Cows do that. And so over time, we have changed the category so that would not fit for a rabbit. It's really the way, it has more to do with the way words have a certain range of meaning, and those can change over time. I think a really common one is thinking about Jonah and the whale. Any translation is going to say fish, but probably was a whale. But it doesn't really matter because, in some sense, the taxonomy, the classification of animals, is somewhat arbitrary. If we want to call all swimming things fishes and understand that there's mammal fishes, whatever, I mean, that's issue of how do we decide we want to classify these things. It doesn't really mean that someone has an error because they're not conforming to modern classifications. So that's just a few of the issues there having to do with contradictions. We'll look at a very common one tomorrow, try to wrestle with it, and but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of engaging with these things. Some of them can be pretty difficult, but ultimately, as I said, I think last time, 90% of these things that unbelievers are going to claim as contradictions are fairly easily refuted, but there are going to be some that you have to wrestle with, and that is, I think, part of trusting the Lord is that you're not just reject what he said, but that you wrestle with it when it's hard to understand. So that's a part of growing our faith.